I'm studying my bachelor's in business and IT currently, and I'm one of only 2 girls in my class. The rest are all boys. So a few months ago, we had a class with one of our teachers, and we discussed about rights of employees in the workplace. So being the only girl, ironically that day I was the only girl, the other one she wasn't present. So my teacher asked me my opinion on women in the workplace. And even before I could answer, one of the guys, a boy in my classroom, stood up and he said, "Oh, but what does she know? Women don't deserve big, white, powerful positions in sales or marketing or HR. They'd rather be fit for a job as a receptionist." And while I did blame him for that kind of thinking, I could see why he thinks that way. Right now in the US, there are over 1.5 million female receptionists. Only 91.6 of that percentage are women and 8.4 are men only. And this is just in the US, not counting anywhere else in the world. Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon to you all. My name is Ummeabiha Hirji, and I'm here to talk about equity versus equality in gender roles. Now, I might get a lot of hate for what I'm about to say, but before making a judgment call, I would advise you wait till the end. In my personal opinion, I don't think men and women should be treated equally. In my opinion, I feel that equity is more important with both men and women rather than equality. So let's take a look at the two. Equality is giving the same to both genders, male and female, while equity is giving them what they deserve. It is giving them what they deserve according to their capability, according to how much they can take in reference to their gender. Equality is when we are already there, when we've gotten there, while equity determines how we get there. So equality is the equal treatment between men and women, while equity is giving them fair treatment according to how much each of them can take in. Now, why is it important to practice equity more than equality? Because equity will cover the weaknesses and the strengths of both genders, and it will be giving them their fair share, again, according to how much they can take, according to how they've been brought up, according to their responsibilities, to their personalities, because men and women are ultimately two different people. Equality would mean that everyone gets the same treatment, but it also means that they deserve and require what they've been given. So while you're giving the same treatment to everybody, what about those who deserve more? You might think you're being equal to them, and maybe you are, but what about a woman or a man who puts in more effort than the other gender, but you end up giving both of them equally? Is that fair? Does that make sense to give both the same while one has worked harder for that position? So really, is it fair to give both the same, or is it fair to give what they deserved and what they put in? Even while searching, or right now when I was doing my research, I searched ways to promote equity rather than equality between the two genders. And what were the results? Sorry, did you mean equality between men and women? So there is a huge misconception between equality and equity. Let's take a look at it from the Islamic perspective. Men, according to Islam, men are not, they are been given the sole responsibility, sorry, not sole, but they have been given the responsibility for feeding the family, for carrying out the financial bit. And women are usually given the responsibility for taking care of children. This is according to Islam. Not because men can't take care of children or women can't work, but again, because this is what their capabilities offer. Women, because of their bodies, because of how much they can achieve and accomplish, because of their nurture and caring behavior, they are able to be more supportive towards their children. But at the same time, doesn't mean that men should take a step back from their relationship and responsibilities towards their children. And at the same time, if women would like to work and men would want to take care of their children, maybe at a time where the children can be under the care of the father only, they can reverse the roles. So Islam looks at their capabilities from both sides. And a very good example is the Holy Prophet. With him, he did not leave everything on his wife. He asked them for advice, he asked them for counseling, he would take care of his own household chores, and he always treated them according to how much they could take in. Another good example we have is Bibi Khadijah. She was one of the most successful businesswomen during her time. And she had to face a lot of prejudice, she had to face a lot of issues, because at that time, if right now being a woman in the workplace can cause so much harm, imagine during that time. But from 1400 years ago, Islam teaches us the difference between men and women, that men are capable of asking their wives for advice, and women are capable of being successful businesswomen. So how can we promote equity? For example, when in the workplace, parental leave can be provided to both. Okay. So I would just like to conclude that there are many different ways where we can promote equity, but I would like to say that if a girl wants to be a legend, she should just go ahead and be one. Thank you.
Very well spoken, Biha. My question to you is that when you kept saying a few times that, how to decide who gets to be paid more, who is more deserving, who decides that? Who sets the bar? How do you decide that? Whether it's in a workplace or in a learning environment, you did talk about that. So I would like to know from you, what do you think, or who do you think makes that decision?
So I think women can make that decision for themselves, because if you leave it up to who is in charge, we will never get anywhere. So it depends on a lot of performance from the women themselves to put themselves out there, to prove themselves to the best of their ability, to how much they can. But ultimately, I feel like it depends somehow partially or mostly on the women, because you cannot guarantee that a man or any person in leadership positions can determine that for women, because the women might be doing as much as they can, but at the end of the day, the decision doesn't lie in them. It lies in the authority before them. But sometimes, with all the hard work, with how much you put in as a woman, it does take you somewhere. So I feel that that decision lies on the woman, that do they choose to, if they are not selected or if they are not chosen, do they choose to remain like not chosen, or do they choose to work hard for another better position?
Sorry, so well spoken. I'm going to play the role of the devil's advocate, right? I like doing that. Shane Bai asked a question. I think she was fishing for a different answer, to be honest. But with what you've said, I hear you saying a lot of women should decide, women this, women that. When I'm looking at the topic, it says equal rights for men and women. I want to try and understand better, is there a specific reason why you're focusing on women? Do you still feel we're not given equal rights? Have you done research when you were compiling this to see how many women actually run multinational companies? So this is just one question, and I'd like you to answer one more thing. When you started your statement, I loved how you did the opening and you brought in the example about the receptionist out of curiosity. So receptionists as a profession we don't really look up to. We look up to doctors, engineers, unfortunately stereotypical. Out of curiosity, did you look up as well any example which was a very dignified job where women were overpowering the men? If you,
Okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, the first one you said why I focused more on women. So I did mention one point that I mentioned about parental leave, that men should, both genders should be given the leave, but because a woman is the one who goes through the process, she deserves more. So the reason why I focused more on women and less on men is because women still face challenges. Like, with a simple example, with what I faced in class, the guy was my age, 21 years old. So you don't expect someone with that mindset in this current age to still think that way. So the reason why my focus was more on women is because there's already enough on men.